September 2021, the Canyonlands National Park near Moab, Utah. We're still at the Moab Rim RV Park, but today we're heading up to the Canyonlands National Park. We found out that there are two ways to get up to the Canyonlands. There's the easy way, and there is the not so easy way. Today we're going to start off with the easy way, which is a really nice paved road up through canyons. The ride to Canyonlands, even up this highway, was beautiful, and before we even got there, we stopped to see our first attraction. This is the Merrimac and Monitor Buttes. These buttes were named for the first ironclads of the Civil War. Oh, and by the way, the Merrimac is on the left. Our first stop in the Canyonlands was the Mesa Arch. Now, even though the Canyonlands National Park is not known for its arches, it does have a few, and this is the nicest one they have. The arch itself is a very short hike from the road, and it's well worth seeing. But what the Canyonlands is really known for is views of canyons for as far as the eye could see. And we looked at quite a few of them before it was time for us to stop for lunch. It was late afternoon, and we found a nice shady spot to have our lunch with a view. This time, we had a friend who also joined us for lunch. We didn't mind sharing our lunch. After all, he didn't eat all that much anyway. After lunch, we walked around some more, took a look at some of these trees that looked like they were sculpted by artists. It seems that nature can do some beautiful sculpture work of its own. After a full day of sightseeing and exploring, it was time to make our way back down to the RV park. We took the same road back to Moab that we used to come up here, and I'll tell you, going in the other direction, it looks completely different. We saw several signs like this warning us of cows, but we saw no signs of cows up here at all. One of the rangers told us that ranching up here ended a long time ago because the plateau just couldn't support it. The next day, we got up well before the sun and made our way up to the park so we could watch the sunrise. It was a little cold in the morning, and I'm not a big fan of getting up at 4:30, but we were told that the colors are spectacular and well worth seeing. And as the sun came up, we could see the colors of the canyons changing right before our eyes. So many different shades of red, it's almost hard to believe. Janet spotted this tree, took a picture, and had to scramble up the side of this hill to get a picture of that very same tree from the other direction. Things just look so much different from a different angle. After spending a little over an hour watching the sun come up, it was time for us to take our morning hike. This hike took us along the Grand Viewpoint Trail. As far as trails go, this one was not that difficult. It was only about 2 miles, and it didn't do a lot of elevation changes. Parts of this trail, though, took us along a ledge that seemed to be carved right into the side of this mountain. Now, I won't say if this ledge was considered narrow, because narrow is relative. But as you know, I am afraid of heights, and for me, even a wider trail can be considered narrow. And when I'm that close to cliffs that seem to drop off forever, well, I get a little bit nervous. But the trail was only narrow in a few choice locations. For the most part, it was nice and wide and comfortable and up on top of the mesa. So I was just fine. And again, the views were great. Our next trip to the Canyonlands required us to put the Jeep into off-road mode because, that's right, we're taking the back way up to the Canyonlands. The road started as pleasant enough, a nice highway alongside the Colorado River. And as usual, there are views along this highway as well. Our first stop was the site of some petroglyph panels right in the side of this cliff. They're a little hard to see until you know what it is that you're actually looking for. Pay attention to this little chip of rock. It'll make sense here soon. There's the chip, and all the petroglyphs are up above it. How did they do that up so high? And there are other petroglyphs even higher up in the rocks. The area is amazing, and we can spend hours here with binoculars just trying to spot them all. But we need to move on because we still have a long way to go. And the road ahead changes. The concrete has ended, and from here on in, it's all dirt. We are going to the visitor center via the Shafer Trail. Okay, so it's a dirt road. It's a little bumpy. It's got some minor ruts. 19 miles of this. How bad can it get? And besides, I can't wait to get a closer look at these canyons. We've been looking at them from way high up on the mesas, and now we get a chance to see them up close. And all we have to do is drive 19 miles through the canyon, gain 1,000 feet of elevation, and poof, we're there. Okay, that didn't take long. The road started going up, which I expected. It got way more bumpy, which I kind of expected, and it got way more narrow. So far, so good, and our first stop is at Elvis Rock. I have no idea why they call this Elvis Rock. I don't think Elvis Presley was ever up here. But hey, the view is beautiful, and I need a rest. We've been doing a lot of bouncing around in that Jeep just trying to get here. And we've had more company on this road than I expected. These are a couple of Jeep Grand Wagoneers. These two are pre-production models, and they come in at nearly $100,000. I mean, they're Jeeps, so they're built for this. But still, that's a lot of money to bounce around out here. Well, anyway, after a brief look at where we need to go, it was time for us to make our way. Okay, so this Jeep Trailhawk is starting to impress me. And the Grand Wagoneers are next. See you at the top, guys, I hope. Well, the trail did not get any better. In fact, as we went further and further, it only got rougher and rougher. Fortunately, there were lots of places where we could stop and just enjoy the view, and for me to let go of the steering wheel and get blood back into my fingers. This entire area that we're traveling through is called a collapse. It's called a collapse because underneath the ground here was salt. See, you can still see it alongside the road. Anyway, as the water penetrated the ground, it got down to the salt, it dissolved the salt, it created a giant void, and this entire area just dropped right into that void. So, after a good long time of some serious bouncing around out there, we finally made it to our next stop, which is the Thelma and Louise Point. This relatively flat area at the point of a canyon is the place where they filmed a scene from Thelma and Louise. We're getting a ways up in the canyon now, and from here you have a great view of the Colorado River way down there. And again, we are not alone. There are other people traveling this road. Not very many, but we are seldom alone up here. I find that comforting. I like knowing that we are not alone up here. I mean, I trust my Jeep way more than I did before, but it's still good to know there are other people up here to bail us out just in case. And with that thought in mind, it's time to go onward and ever upward. You know, I'm looking at those cliffs in front of me, and I know I have to get up higher than any of the ones I'm seeing in front of me right now. But let's speed this up just a little bit. As I said before, I'm not alone up here, and the roads are kind of narrow in places. For the most part, the roads are at least 3 goats wide, maybe even 3 goats and a sheep. That is using the appropriate scale for this road, by the way. But it's not always like that. I've seen them as narrow as 2 goats. I wonder what's ahead. After about an hour and a half of driving and making nearly 12 miles, we finally reached the Canyonlands Park. And with about 7 miles to go, the rangers put up this sign. How thoughtful of them. What do they think is behind me anyway? After a short wait for some oncoming traffic, it's time to move on again. We still have a ways up to go, remember? But at least from here, you can see the top of the plateau that we're trying to get to. It's a ways up and a ways onward. And from here, the road starts getting steeper, and we're about 2 goats and a sheep wide. Meeting oncoming traffic on this 2-goat wide road can be tricky. Somebody needs to pull over one way while the other person pulls over the other way. And then you do this little dance where nobody falls off the edge of the cliff and you keep on going. 2 goats wide. And finally, our destination is in sight. We are trying to get to right about there. To get there, we need to get up to about here, run this little ridge, zigzag up this canyon, then run some kind of a goat trail across this canyon, past this point, through this canyon, past this point, and finally make it to there. With a closer look, you can even spot the road. One quick look back to see where we came from, and then one quick look down to look at my GPS. Oh, I could probably just turn that thing off. It looks like a crazy flamingo anyway. It's time for me to see if my Jeep can make like a goat and get up there. We are now officially at 1 goat and 1 sheep wide. I'm not sure I feel my fingers anymore. Question for you all. What kind of an idiot thought this was a good place to put a road? Better question for you all. What kind of an idiot thought this was a good road to drive? I don't like heights. I don't want to look down and see where we came from. Janet, on the other hand, has no problem. Okay, so maybe I wasn't too bright when I decided to take this road. But hey, I feel good because I'm smarter than that guy. At least I'm driving. Okay, the road is now officially 1 goat wide. And I have become more and more impressed with my Jeep. Some of these hairpin turns are so tight I was surprised that the turning radius on this beast was actually enough to make the turn without having to back up. Because I'll tell you honestly, I am not sure if I'd have the nerve to kick this thing in reverse. Period. Wow, were we really way down there and way out there? I can hardly believe it, but we did it, and we are almost at the top. And we finally made it to the very top. The road was fun, even if it was just a little scary at times. Well, maybe a lot scary at times. After all that, the Jeep deserved a rest, and Janet and I deserved a lunch with a view. And our view for today was the road that we traveled. What an adventure we had today. A great way to cap our last day up here in the Canyonlands National Park. But now it's time to go home. Maybe we should turn around and go back the way we came. Not! Well, I hope you all weren't too bored watching all that driving. But if you were, I recommend that you drive this road yourself because I guarantee you, you will not be bored, not for a single minute. We still have 1 week here in Moab, but next week we're going to concentrate on the Arches National Park. As usual, you can find links to all the places we've been down in the description. And so, we're still here in Utah, still here in Moab, and we hope to see you at Arches for our next stop.